Welcome back to the ATST show, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Aiden Davis, and happy Thursday to you all. Now, I was just kind of sitting around and was just thinking about the Bad Batch and how great the first episode was. And one part of the episode that I think people are not talking about a lot is the conversation between Lama Su and, at this point in time, Admiral Tarkin. Tarkin's purpose on Kamino at this point in time is to measure the costs and benefits for the continued production of the clone army, which at this point in time, the production of the clone army has been going on for over 10 years. So the Kaminoans are pretty much, they're in their stride. They're doing their thing. They know what to do. They've experimented a little bit, of course. That's how we got the Bad Batch. But the Kaminoans are comfortable. And like Dexter mentions in Attack of the Clones, if you're going to want to interact with the Kaminoans, you better have a hefty pocketbook. You gotta have lots of credits. And for the Kaminoans, the Republic was that direct source of income. But now that the war is over, Palpatine's like, hey, these clones are pretty expensive. And I just established a new empire that's spanning the entire galaxy. And I need to look over my domain and analyze what I'm going to keep from the Old Republic and what I'm going to get rid of. Naturally, the first two things you would look at is your political system and your military structure. Bad Batch is focusing on the military structure, because we know offhandedly that there is the Imperial Senate, but it doesn't have much power, really. Palpatine is constantly calling the shots, and of course the Imperial Senate gets disbanded in A New Hope. But that's besides the point for this conversation. So the military, the Grand Army of the Republic, is being looked at under a new lens, we'll say. Because now the Imperial Army is no longer just an army. It's basically a galactic-wide military police force that's, peacekeeping throughout the entire galaxy at this point in time. And it's brought up in the conversation where Tarkin's like, hey, with a recruited body and probably way less time, because let's be honest, stormtrooper training and officer training in the Empire, it seems pretty basic. It does seem pretty basic. He's like, I can do the training for a recruited body in a lot less time, and I can do it for half the cost. So right away, the Kaminoans, who have been so comfortable for over 10 years, feeling secure in their relationships with the Republic and with Lord Tyrannus when he was still alive, and the supposed Sidious figure as well, they felt comfortable. But all that is changing because in that conversation, Tarkin's like, hey, those contracts you had for the continued production of clones only applied to the Republic. And guess what, Prime Minister? Your contracts have no bearing on the Galactic Empire because it's a new government. So your old contracts are null and void. And you can tell right away that the Kaminoans, specifically Lama Su and Nala Se, are pretty insulted by this. Lama Su mainly because this has been his main source of income for over the past 10 years, and now this might put his planet in a bad economic situation. Nala Se is, of course, upset because she's a medical officer. She's been looking after these clones for the past 10 plus years. And there's the threat that she will be out of a job because some imperial bigwig comes in and says, hey, the costs and the negatives outweigh the positives for the clone army that you've been producing for the past 10 plus years. And Tarkin's point is kind of reinforced due to the food fight that happens in the episode. He doesn't seem that impressed with the lack of obedience and discipline that the clones are now showing when there's a little bit of disruption introduced into the system, and that disruption comes in the form of the Bad Batch. Now, granted, throughout the episode, it's very apparent that the inhibitor chip that all clones have in their brains directly affect their personality and really get rid of their individuality, basically making them humanoid or sentient droids, basically, that have feelings and whatnot. They're basically like human robots, for lack of a better term. And this whole conversation, or this whole message that's being put out through the entire episode from Tarkin, is slightly disrupted because of what he sees from the Bad Batch. Now he's like, hey, Nala Se says that you, the Bad Batch, are as capable as an entire army. And from the training simulation that the Bad Batch had to go through, it's pretty apparent that they're good at what they do. Despite the fact that they have unorthodox methods, they are good at their job. But the only problem is, and this is one of Tarkin's biggest focuses on his trip to Kamino, is how disciplined and how obedient is the clone army, and what happens to the clone army when there's a bit of unorthodox methods introduced. Well, you have characters like the Bad Batch that add to that, and you had the Jedi that added to that. Sure, there were a lot of Jedi generals that were by the book, but a couple of examples are, of course, Anakin leading the 501st and being unorthodox and caring about his men and calling them by their given names that they chose for themselves. And Obi-Wan, too. Obi-Wan cares about his men. Maybe not to the extent of Anakin, but he still cares about Cody and the 212. And Tarkin, being an official of this new government that has completely denounced the Jedi, my prediction and kind of thought on what goes behind Tarkin's thinking throughout this entire process is like, hey, what kind of message are we trying to give out to Imperial citizens if we use the same army that fought that fought alongside the Jedi, which have now all been branded traitors to our new government. Now, sure, the clones executed Order 66, but you have to ask yourselves, how many people in the common populace of the galaxy saw Order 66 carried out? My guess is, and this is just me, it's probably not as many as we would like to think. It probably isn't as much or as many citizens of the galaxy that we like to think. Because it was so fast and it was carried out with precision and without mercy. So anyway, to wrap up this whole conversation, Tarkin's thought process with the clone army is like, hey, they might be good at their jobs, they might be good soldiers, they are some of the best soldiers in the entire galaxy, but they're expensive, they kind of go astray when a little bit of disorder is implemented into their everyday lives, and they are kind of a paradox in a way, saying on one hand, hey, as the Empire, we don't acknowledge the existence of the Jedi, but we're using the same soldiers that fought alongside the Jedi. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that had a part to play in Tarkin's visit to Kamino. What do you all think? Let me know down in the comments below. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the ATST show. As always, I have been Aiden Davis. This is Thursday, May 6th. Return of the 6th, Revenge of the 6th, whatever you want to call it. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.